Hi guys, so it has emerged that this week of Arsenal fallacy is set to continue. So you know about Laurent Koscielny, who has refused to train and refused to board the plane to go to the US and do the pre-season tour over there, stating that he would like his contract to be ripped up so he could be released to go to a club in his native France. I mean, it's just unbecoming of someone who can call themselves the captain of a football club. And if I was Arsenal, I wouldn't let Koscielny leave. Rather, I would shove him into the reserves, as many people have echoed that sentiment as well. Keep paying his wages, whatever. Got the money to do it. Don't follow that. That we haven't got the money to do things like that. We do. And yeah, I'll just make him rot in the reserves for the last year of his contract. Because at the end of the day, that is completely unacceptable. He has a year left on his contract and he should be made to play. But obviously not in the first team after what has happened. And not as a club captain or one of the five club captains, when you bear in mind he wants out. People like myself want Xhaka and Ozil out. Um, and yeah, it's just ridiculous, really. And yeah, I mean, you can't have somebody holding the club to ransom. We've had that too many times in recent history, and there has to be a place where the line is drawn now. We cannot be seen to be spineless anymore. And Arsenal have released a statement, so, you know, it's just, we can't allow that to continue. And yeah, it's just not good, man. And now I'm reading today on Twitter that William Saliba is now subject of reignited interest from Tottenham Hotspur, as the club over there look to seal a deal for him for around the 30 million euro mark. That's excluding bonuses and add-ons as such, and are looking to meet with, I think, Saliba and his representatives, or just his representatives, tomorrow morning to see if a deal can be developed and put into place. And I feel that if we lose out on Saliba to not just to Tottenham, because obviously as Arsenal fans, you know that's the worst eventuality, losing out on a player to Tottenham, other than losing a game of football to them. So while we'll understand the severity of that, it's just embarrassing to be losing out on a player anyway. It's Arsenal Football Club. It's a club with a lot of prestige, a lot of history, and supposedly a club that should have a lot of money. But this doesn't seem to materialise. Um, and I know that there are more transfer targets than Saliba that have been identified. But at the end of the day, this is one that has been targeted for probably the longest time during this transfer window since it opened. So if we were to miss out on him, it would just be highly embarrassing. So we really need to get our act together, get this deal sorted. If he needs to go back to Saint Etienne on loan for the season, while that is not ideal, just make the deal, make it happen, because then at least we know, and the club know, where we all stand, and then we can look to go back to our other transfer targets, such as Tierney, of which the deal seems to have gone relatively quiet. It's not really one that is being spoken about a lot this week. It was more last week and the week before. If we are serious about bringing Tierney into the club, we need to make sure that we get that deal in place before Celtic really step up their own pre-season and, look to include Tierney in as part of that, and, maybe they'll turn his head and make him stay. So before Celtic get the opportunity to reach that point, we need to make sure that we have a deal in place, personal terms in place, and we can get Tierney perhaps for the end of the US tour, for when Arsenal will then host the Emirates Cup. So if we could have him in place for then, not necessarily to play in the Emirates Cup, but just around that period of time, to have him around the club would be good. He would have a little bit of time to adapt to the team and kind of integrate himself into the fabric of the club before Arsenal then venture into the new Premier League 2019-2020 season. And if there are any other transfer targets, again, you could look to bring them in once the club have returned from America. Um, if that's how they plan on doing it, it's personally how I would plan on doing it. I wouldn't fly anybody out to America to join the team now, rather bring them in afterwards, and kind of play them through their paces in training once you get back. And understandably, they may not figure at the start of the season in maybe the first or second game, but that's fine. I think knowing you have them is what's more important there, and just knowing where fans knowing where the club stands, the players knowing where the club stands. At this time, I don't feel we're going to get Zaha. It's disappointing to be outbid, to be outpriced by a club like Crystal Palace. But at the end of the day, if we're the dog who's played with its dinner instead of eating its dinner, then that's all you're gonna get is just a horrible, sloppy mess, and that's what we've got. That is the crux of our transfer window. It's just been one big mess. The fact that Palace have come to Arsenal and said, "Hey, anything less than 100 million, and you might as well go barking up that wrong tree," it's just wrong. So Arsenal need to buck up their ideas. The board need to stick to their word in which they gave us through Senelli and the other guy, but I'm not going to pronounce his name because I can't, and I don't want to cause insult. I don't want to cause an insult trying to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it. But yeah, man, it's just not good, and we're at a point where we cannot be playing with our dinner. We need to be finishing it off, as I've said. So to be losing out on transfer targets potentially to a team like Tottenham is not encouraging, and totally goes against what we were told in the State of the Club two-piece interview about a month or so ago. So come on, Arsenal. I mean, we've all done our bit. A lot of us have bought the new kit. That's money being pumped into the club. I've got my new home top with lettering on the back, so that's extra money. That's $72.99 I'm never going to see again. So, we are putting money into the club. The club apparently has a reserve of money. The players are out there that want to come to Arsenal. So I do not understand why, when you've got the funds, supposedly, and you've got the enthusiasm to play for the club and to represent what this club is, and for those players to represent us, why you cannot get a deal done. The players literally want to play for Arsenal. I mean, come on. Look at Frenkie de Jong. I understand he's gone to Barcelona from Ajax, but he said he even favoured the Overmars route that Mark Overmars took from the late 90s to the 2000s, in which he came from Ajax, went to Arsenal, and then went on to Barcelona. Yes, it is not ideal for us to be losing a player to Barcelona because it's happened so much over the years, but to have had Frenkie de Jong in a club like Arsenal at this time, the way that Arsenal have been struggling, his presence, his influence would have been so beneficial at this time that at the end of the day, we may be in a place where he would then want to go to Barcelona. We could say, okay, well, do you know what? We paid this for you, because I believe he went for about 49.5 million in that sort of ballpark or something like that. And say, okay, well, do you know what? You've served your purpose. You've helped us get to the next level. You've helped us start to not just compete with, but overtake teams like Tottenham and Chelsea once again, which we haven't done in nearly 10 years. And then get to a point where we can say, okay, well, do you know what? We'll sell you on. You can have your dream move. This is over the £100 million transfer fee that we're going to demand for you. Off you go. All the best in your future endeavours. Then be in a position to get somebody maybe of as good quality or even better quality, because number one, the club, if they were to be any better than the previous seasons, they would be in the Champions League, number one. So that's a prestige and honour of having that competition at the Emirates that will attract more players. And number two, the Premier League position will be better. Therefore, people will be more inclined to say, oh, well, do you know what? I won't favour a move to, say, a Dortmund or a Lyon. I will go to Arsenal and I will try and take that step in my career in the Premier League, see how I can do, Yes, there are more attractive teams in the Premier League, but I like the project that Arsenal are starting to create here. This is something that looks really promising and something that I feel that I could fit the mould of. I could really insert myself into this team, have a really good effect on this team, help this team get to the next level, and who knows, if the next level is winning maybe FA Cups, League Cups, good. And then there's obviously going to be a step up after that to getting to the point in which we can challenge the likes of the powerhouses of the Premier League, Manchester City and Liverpool, for the Premier League title. But that won't come in the next stage of development. That is 2 or 3 steps away. So, in that vein, we really need to start bucking up our ideas, getting the players in that will help us take the next step of perhaps winning an FA Cup, perhaps winning a League Cup. You know, that's progression. And then, if we can start maybe doing doubles in a season, who knows where we end up? But I understand and I respect the fact that an insane amount of work is going to have to go into our team for us to reach that level. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be over a season. It's going to be over a number of seasons in which our gameplay and our tactics behind the pitch improve. It is going to take years for Arsenal to improve. It's not going to take months. And the 2019-20 season is not going to be where we start and our finished product. It is going to take seasons for this to change, because it's taken seasons for us to decline, and it takes seasons for us to go from that decline to where we are now, to where it seems attractive, to then where we want to be, challenging for trophies such as the Premier League and latterly the Champions League. But it's going to take time. It's not going to be any time soon that we're doing that. But if we can lay the foundations for that from now, well, who knows where we could be in 3 or 4 seasons' time? Who knows if, I don't know, and this is really ambitious, but I sincerely doubt it will happen, maybe Man City and Liverpool fall off. Obviously, it would take a titanic level of a drop for that to happen, and there's more chance of me strapping wings to my back and flying than there is of that happening. But if we can capitalise on the moments in which the clubs around us are falling and failing at the last hurdle, and we stop falling at the last hurdle in April and May, well, who knows where we could be. But we need to get the players in, because if we do not get the players in, we will continue to be behind these teams, and we will continue to be battling for 5th, 6th and 7th with Chelsea, Spurs, United, Everton, Wolves. Those are not the teams that Arsenal should be battling for in those positions. If you go back maybe 10, 12, 15 years, it was Arsenal and United on the same level, with Chelsea and then Spurs underneath that. That is a battle I'd be happy to see again. That is a battle I would relish. I would love to go back to the mid-2000s where it was Arsenal and Man United and Chelsea trading Premier League victories for the trophy, and just having pulsating and entertaining matches. But at the moment, all we're doing is battling for the lower reaches of the top 4 and the top 5 and then the top 6, and it's embarrassing. And I know I've spoken to the fans of those clubs, and they're embarrassed. But at the end of the day, the crux of it is their teams are making waves in the transfer window. Obviously, Chelsea this season they can't because of their transfer ban, but in previous years, Chelsea have been making the effort. Yes, it hasn't always worked out, but with a transfer window, there is always going to be trial and error, and you don't know the error unless you try. So they have tried. And Manchester United, yes, there has been trial and there has been error, but at least Manchester United are trying. At least they're saying, yes, okay, well, this particular signing didn't work out, or maybe he started well, but he tailed off. But we haven't really been doing that. We've been doing it in fits and spurts, but it's not been good enough, and it shows. And that's why we are where we are, in 5th place, having finished around 5th and 6th the last couple of years. That is the reason why. And yes, okay, we finished above Man United, but sometimes we haven't really deserved to. Sometimes we've just ridden our luck and won and drawn the odd game here or there, and they've just happened to lose maybe 1 or 2 games at the wrong time. But at least they are buying the people in to see if they can, come back to where they want to be and come back to where people know Man United to be. Arsenal need to do that now. Arsenal need to get to a stage where they're getting the people in and it's no longer trial and error, it's trial and success. And they're then getting those people in, they're hitting the ground running, they're doing well for the entire season, and Arsenal start to progress up the table where they should be. Because if we don't, it's very easy for us to get sucked into a top 8 battle with the likes of teams like Everton, Wolves, Bournemouth, those kind of teams that are there or thereabouts, West Ham. We don't want to be battling with those kind of teams. But if we don't act fast, we will. So it is important that we do what we need to do to make sure that the gap to the teams in the top 4 is not lost. I understand we finished 1 point behind Spurs, but it was still behind Spurs, and it was still outside of the top 4. So we need to get to a stage where we are able to say, okay, well, this is us, this is who we've brought in, this is the impact that this particular player has had on the team, and this now is how our progression is going to be, and then we're going to identify and then add, not just identify and speculate, we're going to identify and add to the squad where need be so that we can continue pushing. And we know it will be a slow process. Us fans have to put our realistic caps on and understand that it is not going to be a one-season thing. It'll take many seasons, as I said earlier. But if the progression is there, just from 6th place to 5th place, if the progression is there from 6th to 3rd place, then we are doing something right. But we need to get the players in and start faffing about in the fucking transfer window and start pulling our socks up and doing something. Because otherwise, we will get left behind. So come on, Arsenal. Stop getting left behind. Stop speculating and stump up the cash that you have and get that rich old man in America to start doing his job. Okay? Do your job, Kroenke. Give the money, make it known that we have the money, and start getting the players in that will help the club to progress to the next level.